In the escalating air war over Europe during the Second World War, Germany was pushed to the absolute limit of its defensive capabilities. Allied bomber formations, numbering in the thousands, were systematically turning German industrial cities into ash. But in this alternative timeline, we explore a different path of military development. What if, instead of wasting precious resources on desperate retaliation weapons or fragmented defensive programs, the Luftwaffe had prioritized the unification of their raw technologies into a single, cohesive platform? What if they had built a rudimentary airborne early warning and control system, a World War II Proto-AWACS? To house such a system, the German Air Ministry turned to their largest heavy aircraft. The chief candidates were the massive six-engine Junkers Ju-290 and Ju-390 maritime patrol aircraft, alongside the heavily modified Heinkel He-177 Greif heavy bomber operating as a dedicated electronic warfare post. These massive motherships possessed the spacious interior cabins, heavy payload capacities, and immense fuel endurance required to loiter high in the stratosphere for up to 20 hours. Safe from the reach of short-range Allied escort fighters, these giant sky giants acted as airborne command hubs, carrying heavy electrical generators, specialized radar operators, and advanced plotting rooms. By placing the command center directly in the air, Germany bypassed the structural limitations of their vulnerable ground-based station networks, preparing to seize control of the skies and rewrite the rules of aerial interception. At the core of this airborne command post was a breakthrough in surveillance technology: microwave radar. Early in the war, German airborne radar sets like the Hirschgeweih or Stag's Antlers were massive drag-inducing dipole arrays that severely degraded aircraft performance and offered extremely limited range. But by late 1944, German engineers captured downed British bombers carrying cavity magnetrons, the secret 2-centimeter wavelength radar, and rapidly reverse-engineered the technology. The result was the Fuji 240 Berlin, Germany's most advanced microwave radar, featuring a compact, highly directional parabolic dish. In this timeline, rather than deploying a handful of these radars on individual night fighters, the Luftwaffe scaled up the Fuji 240 Berlin and mounted it inside a massive aerodynamic radome on top of or beneath the fuselage of the Junkers Ju-290 motherships. Sweeping the skies with centimetric precision, this powerful airborne radar could detect approaching Allied bomber streams at immense distances. Crucially, by operating from a high-altitude platform, the Berlin radar completely bypassed the ground clutter, coastal interference, and geographic blind spots that severely crippled ground-based radar stations. It could look down upon the horizon, mapping the speed, trajectory, and size of incoming formations long before they crossed the German border, rendering the massive Allied bomber streams entirely visible in the dark. While a high-power active radar was a powerful tool, constantly transmitting electromagnetic waves was highly dangerous. It acted as a beacon, inviting Allied night fighters to hunt down the vulnerable command ships. To counter this threat, the German Proto-AWACS relied heavily on passive electronic support measures. The motherships were packed with arrays of Fuji 350 Naxos Z and Fuji 227 Flensburg receivers, transforming them into silent, invisible listeners of the sky. The Naxos Z system was designed to passively detect the centimetric emissions of the H-2S radar systems that British Lancaster and Halifax bombers used to navigate through the dark and locate their targets. Simultaneously, the Flensburg receiver homed in on the emissions of the British Monica tail warning radars, which were supposed to protect the bombers from attack. By combining these passive sensors, the operators aboard the Ju-290 could map out an entire British bomber stream from hundreds of miles away simply by listening to the bomber's own electronic emissions. The British crewmen, completely unaware that their own navigational aids and warning systems were betraying them, became glowing beacons on the German plotting boards. This passive array allowed the Luftwaffe to track the bombers silently, gathering precise data on their speed, altitude, and trajectory without ever revealing the location of the airborne command ship. The true defining feature of an AWACS is the integration of detection with command and control. In our history, the Luftwaffe relied on the slow, ground-based Himmelbett system, where ground controllers manually tracked targets and radioed verbal commands to individual night fighters. The Allies easily neutralized this by dropping metal foil strips called window or chaff, which completely jammed ground-based screens and filled radio channels with static. The airborne command plane changed everything by moving the control room into the stratosphere. Inside the mothership, operators looked at glowing green cathode ray tube screens and plotted the movement of the bomber streams on giant plexiglass maps using colored grease pencils. Acting as airborne fighter controllers, they had an uninterrupted, clutter-free view of the battle. To direct their defensive forces, they utilized highly secure, directional VHF and UHF radios alongside experimental data links derived from the Fuji-25A Erstling transponder network. These high-frequency signals bypassed the heavy ground-level jamming that plagued the ground stations, allowing airborne controllers to directly vector entire wings of Messerschmitt and Junkers night fighters directly into the vulnerable flanks of the bomber formations with surgical precision, turning a chaotic sky into a coordinated trap. By the winter of 1943, the deployment of the German Proto-AWACS transformed the nocturnal air war over the Reich into a slaughterhouse. As British Bomber Command launched its massive raids against Berlin and the Ruhr Valley, they were met not by scattered, blind interceptors, but by coordinated packs of deadly night fighters guided by an invisible hand. Heavily armed Junkers Ju-88s, high-performance Heinkel, he 119 Uhus, and revolutionary Messerschmitt Me 262 jet night fighters were vectored directly onto the bomber streams. Instructed by the airborne controllers aboard the Ju-290 motherships, the night fighters slipped silently beneath the heavy bombers, using upward-firing Schrager music cannons and high-velocity rockets to devastate the formations. The Allied electronic countermeasures, once their greatest shield, were rendered completely useless. Bomber streams were systematically intercepted and torn apart wave after wave, suffering catastrophic loss rates exceeding 20% per mission. The psychological toll on the Allied aircrews was devastating. They were fighting an enemy that knew their every move, an invisible eye in the sky that guided deadly predators with absolute certainty. The sky over Germany, once a highway of destruction, had become an absolute graveyard for Allied aviation. The strategic outcome of Germany prioritizing the Proto-AWACS is a profound shift in the trajectory of the Second World War, with Allied bomber formations suffering unsustainable, catastrophic losses. The round-the-clock bombing campaign is forced to a grinding halt. Deprived of air superiority, the Allies are unable to systematically dismantle German industrial centers, synthetic fuel plants, and transportation networks. The German war machine, operating at full capacity in undamaged factories, continues to produce massive quantities of tanks, ammunition, and advanced weapons. Without total control of the skies, the planning for the D-Day landings in Normandy is delayed indefinitely, as an invasion without air cover would be a military suicide. This delay allows Hitler to redirect elite divisions and advanced fighter wings to the Eastern Front, slowing the Soviet advance and prolonging the conflict for several grueling years. The war in Europe does not end in a swift Allied triumph. but in a long, drawn-out stalemate under a cold sky, where a single, unified technological breakthrough in airborne radar and command rewritten the geopolitical destiny of the 20th century, leaving the post-war world divided by a cold and militarized border.